Welcome to FlashSci Talks, a series of short conversations on topical issues which are affecting research institutions and universities across the world. My name is Rachel Martin. I'm the Global Director of Sustainability at Elsevier, and today we're talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm joined here by CRNS, which is the French National Centre for Scientific Research, one of the leading research institutions in the world, incredibly active on SDGs. Welcome, and please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello. I'm Agathe Euzen, Scientific Deputy Director at the Institute on Ecology and Environment at CRNS, and I'm in charge of sustainability sciences, and I developed the SDGs approach in the CRNS.
Wonderful to have you here today. Let's get started. The 17 SDGs, incredibly ambitious target of 2030 for a more resilient, inclusive and sustainable future for both people and for planet. What role do universities and research institutions such as yourself play in accelerating the progress needed to meet this deadline of 2030?
So the SDGs are part of political agenda in which researchers have a real role to play. Even if it's not concretely written in the document. Through research and publications, universities and research institutions contribute to the production of knowledge, to better understand the world around us, and to understand the social and environmental challenges in context of global change. And then we propose solutions to support decision-making in order to achieve the SDGs targets. And then the CRNS participates at different levels in this dynamic. First of all, a specific task force, Agenda 2030, was created in 2015 to translate the 2030 agenda, which is a political agenda, into scientific questions. So this task force has highlighted issues and numerous examples of research, results and actions, scientific projects and publication, or mechanisms that provide response to the SDGs. So one by one, or in connection, in interaction in between the different 17 SDGs. So because I think that science must think about the interfaces between the 17 SDGs and avoid silos thinking. I think it's one key and one of our role is to do that. But we have to contribute in all of this approach. In the same way, the CRNS built its contact of objectives and performance, the COP, with the state, around 6 societal challenges, which are directly connected with the SDGs. For example, they are concerning health and environment, educational inequalities, energy transition, artificial intelligence, climate change, territories of the future. And then we are in cross of the different SDGs in this institutional approach. In the other way, as a public actor, CRNS participated with other researchers institutions in the development of the French national roadmap for the 2030 agenda. And one of the objectives defined in the roadmap is to develop a science at the service of the SDGs. It was a key of this roadmap. Finally, last year in 2020, CRNS created an internal roadmap and a sustainable development committee to develop a structure and proactive action plan to integrate sustainable development into the operations of the institution and its laboratories, and for many goals: to reduce the impact of the French research on the environment while maintaining its excellence, And it's concerned more the SDG 13 on climate. And we also developed some initiatives, but it was the SDGs 5, integrated issues related gender equality. So it was created since 2001, a specific mission dedicated on that. So we have different actions, and we are more and more involved in this action in different parts, the part of the organization of the institution, and in part of the development of research to highlight the decision and to develop more knowledge to understand the specificity and the complex of the world where we are, and to be sure that to have the knowledge to be able to understand the complexity of the challenges that we are in the global change context.
Definitely agree with that. And you've already touched on the fact that they're complex and that you need to avoid that silo approach. How important is it to really encourage researchers to get out of that siloed thinking, that interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary approach? How have you sort of approached that from CRNS?
Yeah, so interdisciplinary is essential to deal with global issues, but it's complementary with a more specific discipline approach. We need to have both and to cross all of them. To be strong on discipline approach, we will be able to have a real interdisciplinary research. And then in CNRS, we are conscious about that. And we developed in 2011 a specific mission dedicated on interdisciplinary approach. And it was to bridge the gap between the 10 thematic institutes of the CNRS, from chemistry, biology, environment, human sciences, engineering, and so on. And just to cross all of that, to be to develop some calls for projects on major social issues. For example, there is some calls which are in the SDGs interfaces, such as sustainable building and cities, or climate change, or risks, or frugal sciences and low-tech innovation. And then on each social issue, we are considering all of the discipline. We're considering different disciplines to be able to add their knowledge and their competence and to co-build the question to consider all of the holistic approach. So it was one example. In other side, in the CNRS peer review process, there are interdisciplinary commissions, which are more and more attractive. We have a lot of researchers who want to apply on these specific dimensions. We also have different tools like laboratory and international laboratory. And for example, we encourage partnerships, particularly in the interdisciplinary approach, such as the International Research Center. And for example, one of them, it was just created. It was between the CNRS and University of Arizona in the US. And it was more specifically focusing on interdisciplinary and the global environmental studies, which is a laboratory, which is a sharing between the two institutions. And we developed common calls, notably on the major challenges raised by the social, biological, physical, and technological sciences of the global environment. It's one of example of a partnership. So we are in the SDGs 17, and across all of the SDGs in between. So, however, I think that we have to develop more and more research with interdisciplinarity, but interdisciplinarity is not an easy thing to achieve, and it is a term that is sometimes overused. So I think that one of the challenges today is to develop more and more sustainability science. It is less developed in France than in Anglo-Saxon region, but we have to develop it to be able to become from the fundamental research to the more applied and to find solutions, to have the big approach, considering all disciplines, to be able to add their knowledge to understand the complexity, the dynamic of the processes and the interaction in between the questions. And we have to do that to consider empirical knowledge and to be in connections with all of the stakeholders who are concerning by one question of one problems or one subject. And then I think that to achieve the SDGs targets, we need to change our research and then to develop and to do more and more science, sustainability science. So it's one of my goals, but it is not just to do, we have to do that. It is a complete approach. We have to continue to have a fundamental approach to be sure to have a strong approach in scientific theoretical approach, and also to do that with sustainability science. And finally, the CNRS is developing a strategic roadmap for developing its partnership in Africa, for example. And then it articulates, among other things, to the requirements for scientific excellence and the development of sustainable and equitable partnerships. And then on this way, we have also different laboratory and different actions to do that. And it contributes also in the capacity building regarding research that we are developed here, and to be able to educational and to develop that also in other countries.
Great. And I love that idea of sustainability science and developing that as a complete sort of, like you said, from applied, from basic to applied. That's wonderful. And I wondered whether, a lot of times when we're talking about sustainability science or, the applied side, when it gets reported in media, it can be misrepresented. It might be lost with policy making. And we've seen examples of that with COVID. How do you see research kind of bridging that gap between research, policy, and the wider society?
Yeah, I think it's one of the key. we have to bridge the gap in between science and decision maker and social civil society and stakeholders and so on. So in CRNS, many expert opinions are given by researchers in all kinds of media and on daily basis. So CRNS researchers are a pool of expertise on all the issues that exist. So it's one of, it is very important and one of the challenge is the transmission. And then we have different tools to do that. We develop some books, some film, some podcasts, audio, and so on. And we also develop new media in YouTube, for example. CNRS developed a specific channel called Zeste de Science. And it is for general public. And we try with a very small video just to explain a specific phenomenon or a question, actuality, or so on. And for example, we developed one regarding our context now, focusing on coronavirus. And one is focusing on coronavirus on the scientific front. It just to illustrate what the contribution from science to this problem, and just to explain how we can how we are completely involved in the reflection and to understand what's happened, and in different ways. And it's also in connection with interdisciplinarity, because, for example, we know that the zoonoses are one of the origin of the coronavirus, perhaps. And then we need to have some health scientists, or veterinary, or ecological, and anthropologists, and just to add all of this then expertise to understand the evolution of the environment, the anthropogenic pressure, and the consequences on the environment, and then from the local aspect, how it's impacts the global, and also how the global impacts the local, regarding deforestation, regarding the evolution of the global sun and nutrition, and so all of these parameters are considering, and then we are more and more able to understand and to share, to explain, to be able to not to be only on academical language, but also to be able to vulgarize and to communicate in different people. So educational for the young people, all of us, because we need we are also in the society, so we need to have some information, but also in CNRS we are focusing some action with parliamentarians, and we are directly in connection with them in specific topics. Sometimes they ask us before to do regulation to have more information regarding one question, and then we try to highlight them and to give them the last research and our last knowledge about this question, just to be able to do the good decision. And sometimes we consider that we have to inform them, even if they don't ask us to have some information. We consider that it's very important to give them the main information and the main knowledge to be able to do their decision. So it's different point of view, and of course a lot of researchers in CNRS are involved in different big international institutions. And for example, they contribute in the IPCC approach, IPBES also, and then their expertise are mobilized to do syntheses and also to translate to the decision makers and all of the society, just to be sure that in this different community, different instance, in France and in the international dimensions, we are sure that they have the information to do the decision. So we are involved in different level to do that. But it's one of our objective and mission to do that.
I love the YouTube idea. That's wonderful. Let's change track a little bit. We've talked about, and you've touched on this, various partnerships and collaborations, also with your African example. And I guess, you know, with the SDGs, some will require an international approach, some will require a more specific, you know, local context and perspective. You know, researchers who are looking to, you know, contribute to the SDG agenda, what approach should they take? And what are you recommending to your researchers at CRNS?
So it's not so easy to have some recommendation, you know. because I think that all of us are concerned, and we have to do something on each scale. Then the DNA of public research in France and thus at the CRNS is based on the freedom of researchers, open science and fundamental science, while taking into account societal issues and the valorization of research. And it is important to do research at different levels and scales, and not to exclude any approach. So we need to have, and it's one of the specificity of the CRNS to cover all of the spectrum of sciences and disciplinary, and then we are able to mobilize all of colleagues to do that. But I think that researchers have to be in relation with partners, with a lot of partners, because we cannot do that on our way and not consider the reality of the society and the world. And more researchers are completely involved in the territories and relation with different partners. We develop different kind of partnerships with academic, with university, because our laboratory are mixed with academics and with university, and sometimes with industrial also, and then we cross our knowledge and competence. And we also need to develop some partnership with with stakeholders, for NGOs sometimes. And for example, we develop a book with a specific NGO regarding adapting to climate change, just to highlight the question of adaptation and to do to develop a new dialogue between scientists and users or industrial or some other sectors, socioeconomic sectors. So it's one part of that. So we do develop that in France with international partnership, of course, and we have some tools which promote that. For example, we develop some international laboratory, and another example in Africa. This laboratory is the name is Environment, Health and Society, and we are directly in connection with Senegal, Mali, Burkina Faso, and France. So we are all partners to develop science in this different territory, but focusing on these specific topics, which are a challenge for today, but for the future too. And for example, the research focuses on the analysis of interactions between the environment, population, health, and the transformation of societies in the Sudano-Sahelian zone. And we focusing some research, it's one part of the approach, in a specific observatory in between environment and society, and it's focusing on the great green wall. And on this specific way, we develop some research with our colleagues in Senegal, Burkina, and so on, to better understanding the evolution of the biodiversity, of the health of the population, the water governance in this specific zone because of the reforestation and the impact on the environment and on the society about that. And then it is because we are together that we are able to better understanding and to have the evolution of this specific region, and with anthropogenic pressure, with climatic change, And then we are considering all of these dimensions. And it is because we have a partnership that we are able to do that.
It sounds amazing, and it's certainly very encouraging and positive. I mean, all the examples you've just spoken about are amazing sort of work that's been done towards this SDG agenda. We're coming to our time. Are there any final words to end on a very positive note, given all your wonderful examples, that you would like to share about how we can all accelerate this progress needed?
Yeah, you know, to accelerate, we have to are more and more conscious, and to also wake up our conscience to do something. And we are actor in all scales. And one of our idea in CNRS to develop internally approach and to also externally approach to disseminated the knowledge and the necessity to integrate knowledge to take a decision. And I think it's very important, and we have to work more and more in this approach. We are involving in different actions and networks in different levels, and we also organize different interinstitutional meetings on the issue. For example, we develop a relation with the Lebanon community, and we sign an agreement from French CNRS and Lebanon CNRS to promote the woman research, woman researcher. And then it's very positive action, because we know that there is a lot of motivation and people are very dynamic to do that. And I think it's very important. One of the other accelerator, I think, is to be in the different level of the society, from educational to more professional action. And we have to change our paradigm and to transform our conscience and just to consider how to change our thinking of the society. And the situation that we are living now is very emblematic about that. So we need to organize this transformation and to be sure that one actions is not completely in contradiction with another. For example, for SDGs 7 on energy. So we will to decrease carbonation and to develop decarbonation more and more, and just to promote, for example, hydroelectricity. But when you develop a dam, you are in a big territories where some people are living and where is some biodiversity. So we have to harmonize the different goals and just to be able to do the good choice and not to discriminate some population, even if we decarbonize the system. So it is very complex, and then scientists have a role to do on that, just to consider the global approach and to highlight about that. And I think it's more and more considering, and it will accelerate the process more and more, I'm sure.
Well, I heard wonderful notes to take home: wake up our conscious, education, inclusion, I mean, that's a great message to end with. Thank you so much for joining us, sharing your thoughts and inspiring stories from CRNS. Thank you so much.
Thank you.